Good morning and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. When pastors and church musicians decide to introduce a new hymn to their congregation, most of them prepare themselves for an onslaught of complaints. We often struggle with something new. I know that if Jim is planning a new hymn, oftentimes he will use it for a prelude or other music during worship for weeks ahead, and maybe have the choir sing it as an anthem to get us a little bit familiar with it before we spring it on you. We like the familiar songs we have sung for years and that we know. Maybe I should just say we like the familiar. There's comfort in singing something we know. And when people complain about a new hymn, the other thing pastors and church musicians tend to say is, remember that old favorite you love, like How Great Thou Art or A Mighty Fortress? Well, at one time, those were new hymns too. And can't you just hear the complaints in the Wittenberg church when Luther introduced A Mighty Fortress? This week we are looking at some hymns of trust. And I've told you all that about new hymns because I'm going to introduce a new hymn to you today. It's important to have new hymns because life and society changes, and you want the hymns to be relevant. Our hymn today has a tune we are pretty familiar with, but I'll bet you've never seen a hymn that deals with what this text deals with. The hymn is entitled, When Memory Fades, and it addresses the trust we have in God as we face issues associated with aging. Memory failures, weakened bodies, caring for an older adult, fears of an uncertain future, all these and more are faced honestly with an eye toward trusting in God who sees us through. You don't have to sing this hymn. Reading it is enough to find yourself touched and moved. The first verse goes, When memory fades and recognition falters, when eyes we love grow dim and minds confused, speak to our souls of love that never alters. Speak to our hearts by pain and fear abused. O God of life and healing peace, empower us with patient courage by your grace infused. What a powerful call to trust, and what an assurance that God accompanies us in all of life with love and understanding. I'm sure you've encountered folks with dementia or Alzheimer's who have lost themselves and can't find who they used to be. And this hymn reminds us when that happens, if it happens to us or if it happens to a loved one, God's love continues on. It doesn't alter. The hurt and fear in our hearts at aging is comforted and made certain by a peace from God that passes understanding. In God's grace, we are given courage to go on with God. Verse 2 speaks to the many issues we might feel as we age. As frailness grows and youthful strengths diminish, in weary arms which worked their earnest fill, your aging servants labor now to finish their earthly tasks as fits your mercy's will. We grieve their waning, yet rejoice believing your arms unwearied shall uphold us still. More than one time in my ministry, I've had older adults look at me in anguish and ask, Pastor, why am I still here? And that speaks to one of the issues of aging. Sometimes we lose our purpose. Older adults often seem passed by and forgotten in our busyness of daily life. I remember hearing Garrison Keillor one time make the comment that perhaps older adults lose their hearing because no one ever talks to them anymore. This hymn invites us to continue to trust in God and that God will see us through and uphold us to the very end. And that end, of course, is our new beginning. Verse 3 reminds us that our lives have had meaning and purpose, and that all we are, all we have done, is wrapped up in the God in whom we trust. Within your spirit, goodness lives unfading. The past and future mingle into one. All joys remain, unshadowed light pervading. No valued deed will ever be undone. Your mind enfolds all finite acts and offerings. Held in your heart, our deathless life is one. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.